Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another discussion video. So I'm sure you've heard by now the leak with this tropical paradise or island paradise, now that it's been renamed to that by Instant Gaming. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, maybe you could guess that the real name is Seagull Paradise and you could be right. I don't know. I think that would be a pretty cool title, but I wanted to do this video because I thought it would be fun to list my top 7 things that I want to see most in a Tropical Paradise expansion pack if that ends up being real, which I think it is pretty likely. I would have kept it to a top 5 because that's usually how it goes on YouTube, but I just couldn't do it. We're talking about a full expansion pack here, not a game pack, and there's so many things you can do with a tropical theme that there was just no way. But unlike a lot of my previous rankings videos where I go from the bottom first and then to the top, I'm gonna do it the opposite way, from top to bottom, because I really felt like it made more sense in this particular case to start off with what I think is the most essential thing for a tropical expansion pack, besides the obvious thing, which is a new world. But I don't think that really needed to be included in this list. It's just a given. But my number 1 most wanted thing is swimming. I really wish we had swimming in the game by now. We have it in pools, but we don't really have it in rivers and lakes and oceans, and I would really love that. I remember once we did get ocean swimming back in The Sims 3, I used that way more often than I did with pools. And especially with the improvements that they made for swimming in the pools in The Sims 4, I think it could be a lot more interactive in The Sims 4, so I think there is a whole lot of potential here. And while we're at it, can our Sims finally kiss in the water, please, instead of just blowing kisses to each other? I found that to be a really weird exclusion when they added pools, so would be nice if they could do that. And also, while I'm just talking about swimming in the ocean, it would be really cool if we could get a swimming skill. I did make a My Sims 4 wishlist episode about this years ago, so would be cool to see that, maybe even having toddlers and children learning how to swim, so yeah, that could be really neat, I think. So let's move on to number 2, which is maybe a surprising one, but I wanted to include wildlife in here because I think that would be something that could make this version of a tropical expansion pack a bit better than it was in The Sims 3. There was some wildlife. You could die by sharks. But yeah, I think we should have the death by sharks back. But they could also have a variety of tropical birds like parrots and toucans. And, well, they definitely need to include seagulls. It's not a beach without seagulls. It's just not right. And maybe we could have crabs on the beach as well that could pinch our Sims if they get too close. And maybe there could also be monkeys that could steal your Sim's phone or something temporarily. Because, yeah, we could have mischievous monkeys. That could be an interesting comedic element. And maybe even whale watching. I did think about this when I was thinking about an Arctic world as well. But yeah, I think whale watching could also be interesting. I know whales do appear in Brindleton Bay at Cavalier Cove, but it's so rare that even though I play in that neighborhood so much, I've only seen them once. And I've had that expansion pack ever since it came out in 2017. But overall, just make the tropical world as lively as possible and really make it stand out in comparison to the other worlds that we already have. And the next point that I want to talk about is mermaids. This, I feel, is another given. If we don't get mermaids in a tropical pack, then I don't think we're ever getting them back. And I remember they actually were the runner-up in an occult-themed poll that SimGuru Grant conducted on Twitter last year. And yeah, I just really need another occult, okay? Like, it's been so long since we had the vampires game pack, which I think was fantastic, but I'm not happy with that. Like, there's still some ones that I think should return, like witches and werewolves maybe, and fairies, and I would love to see superheroes, but mermaids, yeah, they're a perfect fit for this sort of pack in my opinion. And I do think they do have some interesting gameplay because they do have dependence on the water. So if you don't have them in the water for a very long time, then they could dry out or possibly die. They could also be pretty handy for scuba diving, but we'll get to that later on in this video. The next point that I want to talk about is boats. So I've been very vocal about wanting cars back in The Sims 4, and I definitely want boats back too. It would be pretty difficult to get them to work, I think, at least decently in The Sims 4 because it's not open world. I think it would be even harder to justify them than cars because, at least with cars, I think most Sims would have a car. But boats, not really so much. But maybe with that Legacy Edition update that's supposed to come in June that will drop 32-bit computers, then they'll have more leeway to make bigger worlds than they would before, and therefore have more space to have bigger oceans in the worlds. So yeah, then maybe we could get boats that way, and especially with certain boat types, like the swan paddle boat from The Sims 3, or if they put in canoes and kayaks, those boats don't move as fast, so you don't need as much space to justify those ones in particular. Aquasleds and windsurfing are also must for me, especially the windsurfing. I thought that was a really cool thing to watch in The Sims 3, and I did that all the time. And also, just like how they added more interactions to the pools in The Sims 4, maybe they could do a similar thing with boats, where your Sims could have more conversations, and possibly woohoo as well. I don't think many people would be against having a boat woohoo, because I know a lot of Simmers love getting new woohoo spots. But I think it would be pretty nuts if we got boats before cars. Like, if that happened, I think I would lose it. Not necessarily in a bad way, because I want both cars and boats, but it would just be a giant shocker to me. But let's move on to number 5, which is hotels. It's kind of funny. We've had 2 vacation-themed game packs so far, but neither of them included hotels. They were both just rental lots. And I feel like a tropical pack would be our best chance by far to finally get actual hotels with room service and housekeeping, and just all of the amenities of a hotel. I think that would be really great. Maybe we could even run them like we could in Island Paradise. But I do feel like hotels would just be a really nice thing to have in the game, and if we don't get them in this pack, I don't know when we ever will. And number 6 is scuba diving. I said earlier that I was going to talk about this one, and even though The Sims 4 is not open world, I feel like if they did give it just the right amount of attention, it could be done even better than it was in The Sims 3. Like, kind of with the boats, maybe they could add more interactions to do while underwater, because I didn't feel like there were too many in The Sims 3. But also, you could only scuba dive in designated lots in the world, and even with the 64 by 64 ones, it still felt a little small at times, in my opinion. And once you got over the initial wow factor of being able to go underwater for the first time ever in The Sims, I just felt it wasn't that interesting anymore. There were some things you could do, like picking up some of the collectibles, or getting mauled by a shark, or meeting a mermaid, or woohooing in that cave, although I found that to be probably one of the weirdest woohoo spots in the entire history of the Sims franchise. But I felt like maybe there just could have been more. And with Jungle Adventure, they managed to achieve a semi-open jungle. There were a couple of loading screens once you got really deep into the jungle, especially at the temple, but it was mostly open, and I really liked that, and I felt like that might have laid the groundwork for an underwater open ocean, and I think that could be really interesting. Maybe you could encounter the mermaids once you've gone to the deepest depths of the ocean and you find a small Atlantis neighborhood or something like that. I think that could be really neat. And now number 7 is sunbathing. This is a much smaller feature than the other ones that I've talked about, but I really wanted to bring this up because this was something that I felt was missing from Seasons. But even back then, I'm pretty sure I was thinking, well, they're probably saving this for a tropical pack, and that's why. So they put it at a lower priority in seasons over other stuff. So if we don't get sunbathing in a tropical theme pack, then I'm done hoping for it. But I really hope we do get it. So, yep, fingers crossed that this will happen. And there's the 7 things that I want most in a tropical themed expansion pack. Realistically, I'm not expecting every single one of these features to make it in because, well, it probably is worth more like an expansion pack and a game pack's worth of features, where maybe the hotels could be put into a separate game pack or something where you can run them. So it would be kind of similar to Dine Out in a way, but yeah, it's just so many things that I feel like they need to put in a tropical themed pack. So fingers crossed that it really does end up being an expansion pack, and that this does end up being a real leak in the end, even though I wasn't expecting this until next year. But I mean, I still want it. So, and even though I really want University to come sometime this year, I actually would use a tropical paradise pack more often than that. And that's pretty much it, so feel free to let me know what you want to see in a tropical themed pack in the comments section below, and be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with my latest content from The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!